Start the fireside chat. Are you ready? And there will be a lot of questions you can also ask if you have a time. So let me introduce our friends who are here. Okay. Mr. Shantanu Ghosh, Director of Sales, APJC, AMD Pensando. Shantanu has 24 plus years of experience in IT and telco industry, India and APJ, and his key expertise is in deep tech, cloud, edge computing, networking portfolio, and networking services. He has deep expertise into building relationship with customers and accounts, channel partners, and industry consults. Before this, Shantanu had worked as the country director, Aruba, a Hewlett-Packard enterprise company. And we have Mr. Surya Narayan CS, country category manager, Aruba and Hewlett-Packard enterprise company. He is a seasoned professional. Surya Narayan is working with Hewlett-Packard enterprise for more than 10 years in multiple roles and responsibilities. He has been through the transformation of technology shifts and changes. Welcome you both. To start with Shantanu, can you share the background of Aruba, a Hewlett-Packard enterprise, and AMD Pensando partnership?
So thank you, Deepak and VAR India for putting up an excellent show. And VAR India for many years now have become a key component of the IT industry because you are a driver of the knowledge and dissemination of knowledge within the partner community. So thank you and congratulations to the India team, Deepak. Interestingly, I've been part of Aruba for 6 years. And my co-star in that journey was Surya. So very, very happy to be back on stage with him. And I have spent about 24 years before that in HP and HPE. So, and I have met many of you in my various roles within HP. But what we are going to talk about and discuss about is something, a big change which is happening in the data center space. It is going to impact the IT industry in many, many big ways. And it's a sea change. And this change is being brought about by two icons of the industry, John Chambers, iconic figure, as you know, and Antonio Neri, who is the current CEO of HPE. They got together and founded a company called Pensando. John Chambers came out of Cisco. Along with him, he brought all the gurus who have been driving Cisco's innovations and market leadership. They came out with him and formed this company called Pensando, which was co-invested by HPE, Goldman Sachs, Ericsson, Qualcomm, and others, right? And their vision was to how to change the data center, how to simplify, how to make automation possible. And that's the background of the company. But what it did is the first product that it brought was with HP, where we brought in FPGA cards, which could offload all the network compute requirements onto that card and take the load away from the server. But the second innovation that we made is making the big impact. It is with Aruba. And with Aruba, we built a switch, which is called the distributed services switch. And this switch is going to play a very key role in the data center. And that's what we're going to talk about. So all the channel partners who are in this room, this is a very significant discussion because this is going to impact you for the next 5 or 6 years. And so I think next 15, 20 minutes will be a very interesting session. Over to you, Deepak.
Yeah, so Surya, you want to evaluate something, what Shantanu said?
Yep, Deepak, thanks for this, I can say, platform for us to share the points which we would like to put forward. First of all, thanks to all the partners in this room and online who have joined. As Shantanu rightly said, it's a partnership where the chiefs have shaken hands. Second is the commitment which HP gave as an investment in Pensando innovation. And more important, I would like to add is when the partnership evolves, one is the commitment on investment, second is joint product development, the last piece which I would like to add is it's a joint support system also, meaning it's not two different tax support which you raise, the L1 L2 support lands and supported by Hewlett Packard Enterprise. The reason why I came with these brochures is this entire agenda when I went through, it emphasized one important thing as partner profitability. Okay, so when partner profitability comes, this is one session which I would request you all to put your ears on. And the reason is there is a transformation which is happening in data center, and that change is brought in by these tech gurus in Pensando. And Hewlett Packard Enterprise is not new to data centers. We were pioneered from a server storage compute perspective, moving towards consumption model or a Green Lake, which you see the booth across. Now we are going to heavily focus around data center business with joint partnership with Pensando. And that's the messaging which we are going to give in this platform to share that this is a new change which is happening at the customer side, which needs to be, I can say, addressed by you all in that joint partnership between HP, Pensando and you.
All partners were talking about you are bringing some innovation. Can you share those key points, what innovation you are bringing to the table and how it brings opportunity for the partners to work with MD Pensando and Aruba?
Wonderful. So let me use some slides as a anchor and a placeholder so that you can get some perspective. So first of all, when Pensando is now being bought over by AMD, we are part of AMD now, and the reason is basically Pensando builds technology and chipsets. These chipsets are given to partners like Aruba, and they build products out of it. So it is kind of their business, it fits into the business goal of AMD. So AMD, it's now part of AMD. Now, if you see, before we talk about innovation, I must talk about a team which is bringing the innovation. If you see the success of Cisco, the things that Cisco have brought to market, ACI, the Nexus, the Catalyst range of switches, were built by the famous MPLS team. Mario, Prem, Lucas, and Sony. And two of them are Indians. And these are the people who are now behind this innovation. So probably you have one of the best innovation teams in the world working on this. And so what did we innovate? What we are innovating? If we can go to the next slide, the biggest problem in the data center transformation, and as we move towards cloud, although we have moved to the third generation of switching, we are now moving to the fourth generation of switching. In the fourth generation of switching, the biggest challenge it has to solve for customers and partners is how do you make the network agile and move like a cloud? If you see the success of companies like AWS, Google, or Azure, or Oracle, because they can move a unit of compute along with networking at will, whenever you want. In the data center space, you would find the converged infrastructure of server and storage has happened, but the network is not attached with it. The network does not converge, network does not move. To configure a workload, you will probably take 2 days to configure the network, whereas the compute side gets very quickly aligned. So this is the problem that the fourth generation data center needs to solve. And how do we solve is the challenge. So the solution is, can we bring all the data center services, apart from the routing and switching, there are other data center services. There is a load balancing activity, there is a firewall activity, there is a NATing activity, there is a IPsec activity, encryption, decryption. All these are provided by different vendors and different appliances, and these appliances don't scale. They do serve their purpose, but they don't scale at will. How do you consolidate that? How do you bring it to one single fabric of fourth generation data center? And that's the problem that Pensando and Aruba is trying to solve. And what do you, Deepak or Surya, to add some value to it?
Yeah, please. I want to ask you certain thing like how these innovations bring value to the partner ecosystem. After you please add that also.
Before innovation, I always, in our schools, we heard Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So unless the innovation doesn't address the need, there's no point we talking it further. What created that need in the data center space was data centers were predominantly north-south bound. Innovations around data centers were built with virtualization around compute to optimize the resources. What it did not address, 2 points, was the security layer. In fact, you'll be surprised to see a month back when me and Shantanu started meeting some of the high-profile customers in Mumbai. For east-west traffic, it went unnoticed, meaning it wasn't passing through a firewall, or they in fact said to us that they have switched off the firewall. The reason is it was adding to one important piece called latency. So data centers were predominantly points of discussion on speeds and feeds. How are you talking about a 10 gig or a 25 gig or a 100 gig or a 400 gig? But it's beyond that. I feel the layer of latency and security has been addressed. With this partnership, I can proudly say that we are going to eliminate that layer. That fourth generation data center which Shantanu talked about addresses that important key piece. Believe me, this is not a technology which many customers are in discussion. You are our mouthpiece for taking these conversations to your customers. It's not easy for them to understand these transformations which industry is going through, and this is real. Believe me, when I say zero trust security inside data center, it's not as easy as we speak. It's not about just packet inspection or just putting few load balancers to improve the throughput. So with that, the messaging is very clear. There is a need in the market. When the need is there, and with this partnership, the innovation is there. So you know that this is the technology which creates the difference for you and us, and that's where the market profitability comes. So at the end of the day, as I said, Deepak, very clearly, I'll tie up to your partner agenda of partner profitability with all these innovations coming in.
Wonderful. What a collaboration among the MD Pensando and Aruba. So going forward, I have another question for you. How are customers adopting the power of distributed intelligence? Can you share some references?
So let me talk about the technology for a few slides, or 1 or 2 slides, and then I'll go to the customers who are adopting or fast adopting, or customers who will like to adopt it. See, if you see this particular slide, these are the functions that a data center has to deliver, right? You have the east-west firewall, you have the load balancers, encryption, decryption, NATing, but more importantly, telemetry is becoming very, very important. How do you bring visibility to your entire operations or your entire network, right? And we talked about data, and data is a currency my preceding speakers have talked about. But data can be only converted into a currency when the data can be tapped at its nascent stage. So telemetry becomes very, very important. Before the data gets transformed into any other format, you have to capture it. So how do we bring that data to the usage of the customer is also very important. And that's when I tie back to the profitability of the partners. Can you trap the data for your customers and bring some wonderful insights to them? Using this technology, you can do that, and I'm going to talk to you about that. So what we are going to do is, these are the problems that the data center has, and because of it, the data center does not scale like a cloud. Although your converged infrastructure of storage and server is scaling, it can be aligned to workloads very quickly. The network cannot be aligned because you have so much of complexity. How do we take out this complexity? What Google has done, or AWS has done, is they have built their own network, designed it, and created their own switches, or designed their own FPGA cards, grounds up. They are not following the technology that the data center has been following. So that is the efficacy of cloud. How do we bring that into the data center? The problem statement is you have different racks, and the VM starts moving from one rack to the other. It has to get a firewall service. It has to go to the end of the racks, get serviced, come back. So tromboning is happening between various workloads and various servers or server racks and the appliance which is there. What you get out of this is complexity, but more than complexity, it adds to the latency. In the world of digital transformation, where everything is becoming digital, the transaction time is becoming very, very important. Some of the payment transactions have defined times, 12 seconds, otherwise time out, so you have to complete. So the data center owners that are paranoid with latency, so much so that a lot of data centers are not using east to west firewall just to save the latency. Any latency is about 30 microseconds. It is no in many transactions. They will take the risk, but not risk the transaction failure because of the timeout. So this is a big problem in this current world. Now, has to be solved. The way to solve it, the gurus of the innovation said, okay, let us do like this. Why don't we bring all these services in the leaf switch itself? Put the leaf switch or the TOR, top of the rack switch, and in the top of the switch, rack switch, don't only do switching or routing, also put all these services. That is the distributed services, Deepak. The distributed services are firewall services or encryption services, telemetry services, all are out of the TOR switch. Now, within the rack, it helps you to know not only macro segmentation, now it is able to do micro segmentation. And you know, Surya, Aruba has been championing about zero trust. The concept of zero trust in the age was actually brought about by Aruba. Now, Aruba is actually helping the data center to transform to zero trust. So that's very interesting observation from my side. And that's because we are able to bring micro segmentation and macro segmentation through this leaf switch, right, which have all the distributed services built in. And what happens is as you create workloads and somebody who needs to get a workload allocation of services, the network now moves along with the TORs, along with each of the racks. If you're creating a workload within rack 1, the network also moves with it. You will he gets all the networking services and the bandwidth along with that. So that means you are now mimicking the cloud that a Google has or a Oracle or Azure has, right? So you are able to enable a cloud-like environment in your data center by implementing the TOR switch, which is the new generation TOR switch, which will now have all the distributed services within that TOR built in. So this is not only a consolidation, this is also a game changer because from partner perspective, when you manage a data center, the complexity is managing so many components. More components, more failures, right? And because of complexity, you cannot do AI ML. If you have to do AI ML or automation, you need a simplicity in the environment. And that's exactly what is being provided by the distributed services switch that Pensando and Aruba has built together. So Surya, please talk about the CX 10,000 switch, your product, and how you are enabling these services to kick off.
He covered most of the technical points. One important point which I would like to raise is Aruba as a company was known for its Wi-Fi. Today we power 300 of Fortune 500 companies. On the switching platform with acquisition of 3Com, merger with Procore Networking business, we brought in that software-defined layer around switching. On the data center, we innovated a CX switching platform which was cloud native. More importantly, it had a network analytical engine, meaning a virtual network admin within the switching. So it became the first programmable switching platform. Now to that, what we did was we took the innovation of Pensando. We included that Pensando Elba chip into the switching platform. And today, to that same switching platform, we started adding up feature set which Shantanu updated to you. So meaning that same TOR switch, which was the new normal discussion around speed and feed, has become a distributed service switch. That same TOR switch will now do the firewall functionality, will do the load balancing, and multiple other features at which he talked about. So that means that the first point which I raised to you was around the latency, where the traffic was supposed to go from TOR switch to a firewall or a load balancer within the data center for inspecting your east-west traffic is no more required. Meaning the packet which is moving out of the server or the NIC card is hitting the TOR and hitting your leaf to the spine and that's where we reduce that latency. So often latency 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 used to be spoken about in a big way, but I used to come from the basics of latency, where I remember in a decade back, latency was always spoken about the spindle speed of the hard disk. It started from there actually. Okay, so as we resolved the speeds with SSDs and innovations around hard disk, moved towards network, and like our Mumbai roads, Birenbai, where we used to start increasing the number of lanes on the road. We started increasing 1 gig to 10 gig pipe to 25, 40, but still that latency remained. So then we realized that you cannot have multiple hops. Let's start building a metro on the Western Express Highway. Okay, so this is exactly where we move towards adding Pensando chip itself into the TOR. So this is different, I'm telling you. You need to take that example. Okay, so with that, so over to you, Deepak.
Yeah, so what I could understand, this is well fitted into H2 cloud and it also help fourth generation data center to move closer to the cloud. So on this backdrop, I just want to understand how partners are taking this into the market and what are you going to announce in this partner summit? I want to hear from you.
No, I'll leave it to Shantanu to answer first.
Okay. So if you could. So let's change it. Right? So basically, let me just give you how partners will benefit. Can you go to the next slide? So this is the basic under the wraps, the 10,000 switch. It's a normal Trident T3 switch, which is from our Broadcom, and that's what Aruba builds. On top of the switch or inside of the switch, we have added the Pensando Elba chips. These are at 400 gigs currently. They will become 800. So today the current bandwidth is 800 gigs. You know the cost of a 100 gig firewall. I am not getting into it, and I'm sure you understand. Today we are talking about 800 gigs firewall, and a year down the line it will become 1.6, 1600 gigs firewall, and other services along with it. Currently the services that we deliver, and as per the roadmap, is firewall, DDoS, and telemetry. Subsequent roadmap will do the load balancer and the encryption, and so you will get features. Importantly, the message is these are field programmable chips. The switch can be upgraded. A new posture of the firewall can be upgraded inside this. So that means it's not static. It is a field programmable. And as the firewall postures change or the load balancing postures change, or you want new features dropped, you can actually do it field programming through the Aruba AFC. Well, this is a path-breaking technology, and it's a new technology. Like any new technology, what it needs is how do we do partner enablement. I think that's the very important part of it. So what Aruba and Pensando are doing is they're getting demo systems in the country. So all the Aruba partners will have access to the demo systems, either through Aruba demo pool, or they can have their own demo systems. That's one part of it. The second is that there is a very well thought out learning session which has been designed by Aruba, which will give you two aspects. One is the AC training, the training for the pre-sales people, and a training for your service engineers who are going to implement this, and how do you quickly do a POC. We are soon going to build a remote POC delivery so that customers can actually see this. And once customers see this, let me tell you, customers will come back to you that how can I leverage it even more. I'm not only saving cost, I'm saving complexity. But importantly, let me end where from a partner, the profitability starts leveraging the data. Can you go to the telemetry slides, Surya? No, not this one, the other one. The telemetry slide. Yeah, the next one. Yeah, the telemetry slide, yeah. No, the next one. Yeah, the next one. Yeah. Yeah. So you see what is happening with network. Network has been talking about self-healing and self-optimization for a long time. But the technology was not there to do this concept, but it is a much needed requirement in the customer place. Now what we are able to do is using sensors, you are able to get a lot of insights from the network and put up using visualization tools, you are able to visualize. And then you need an expert, a guru, to kind of predict what needs to be done. So there was no AI in it. Now the switch itself is the sensor. It is going to give you every possible telemetry that you need, all types of flows, all type of packet inspects, whatever you need from the network is given to you. And using MI, you can now leverage this and use a sophisticated AI tool, use your interventions there. Either you can give the data to your insight teams to see what can be done with the data, to capitalize on the data. That's one stream of business that the partners can say, okay, using the network, I can give you a lot of network insights or the data insights, which can come to your business side. The other side is I can bring back this data to the switch itself to do self-healing and self-optimization of the network and the entire data center per se. So you are solving two problems. You're solving the network optimization and self-healing. Apart from that, you're using the network data itself to give it to the business side. And obviously, if you are able to give them the data, there could be some extra dollars for you, extra margins for you in that account. So that's where I think the partner profitability comes from. Surya, I hope you're okay with that profitability statement.
Of course.
But importantly, I think jointly Surya and myself here are committed to standing by the partners in terms of bringing in a very quick enablement program. Because the more you talk about it, more customers are going to give you a hearing. And today for CIO conversations, we need path-breaking technology to get into the account and have repeated conversations. More of the partners who are here we all operate at a layer which is hardware layer. The problem with networking vendors and the hardware companies is, you sell, the network doesn't fail, the hardware doesn't fail, conversations don't happen, but moment you touch data and security, it's a subject which is a daily conversation. So as partners, you have very strong stickiness with your customers. They're going to have more conversations with you because you are now touching the security layer and the data layer. And I think that's the partner's joy with this technology. Surya, your final words, or Deepak, your final words?
As I said, do we have an opportunity in data center? I think we are in the boom. India is in boom. In fact, for the world, I think India becomes the hub for data centers. That's where the roadmap looks like. So conversation around centers of data is the new norm. And any conversation without machine learning and artificial intelligence doesn't end. And the fact is, Aruba Edge Service Platform was built from cloud platform where we were the first to talk about autonomous networks. We were the first to talk about self-healing networks or the network with 6 sense. Now the same platform around CX switching, which when we brought it to data centers, now on the data center side, as rightly said by Shantanu, it was in the vicious circle of what we are protecting. The attack vector started increasing. On the LAN side, it was so easy that ransomware was one of the hot topics which everybody spoke about. But at the same time, when things changed 2 years back, the data centers were just opened like a tap of water. On March, we realized that data centers is no more penetrated by 10 campus sites. If a company had a lakh employee had to hit data center directly. So that's when the innovation started, or the thought process started. How do I get into the security layer? That's where security is not just about north-south, where you put some few huge firewalls to protect it. That's where the zero trust security and the compliance rolled out in the data center. When that came in, believe me, there's a study that 70% of the east-west traffic are not inspected as of now. So that means it's a known fact to the market, and whatever compliance or zero trust we talk about, it will not be of, I can say, meeting any compliance or needs when it is not inspected. And the moment you try to put a firewall in that east-west traffic, that's the importance. When you see the partnership of Aruba and Pensando, you will feel it. That's the reason, as I said, there is a need in the market. Customers will come and talk about zero trust security in data centers, compliance in data center. There are governance which has been put across by the compliance agencies, including finance or the government, to inspect east-west traffic. And this is again, as I said, this is our customers who are saying about it. And there's a huge opportunity for you. So this is the opportunity where you talk about difference which addresses the customer need. And that is the one which will bring profitability to you.
Wonderful. So what a PowerPoint for fireside session. So thank you, Shantanu and Surya Narayan for joining the fireside chat. Now there is a question I want to ask. Shantanu, if you can ask one question to the audience.
Okay, so let me test how attentive you've been, right? So what does the CX 10,000 bring to table? What is it consolidating?
Okay, can the mic goes to the person who raised the hand?
My neighbor raised it second, so
Please raise your hand.
let him
please.
first get
Please,
it.
please
After
stand
that
up.
we'll come to you.
Yeah, it brings a switch with a firewall, with a load balancer and a telemetry component and a few other things.
Wonderful. I think that's an absolutely perfect
Please come.
answer.
Please come.
So that's beyond a Trident 3 chipset, which adds on to all the functionalities of the data center requirements.
Please.
Thank you.
Ruby, can you give Mohini? Thank you. Congratulations. Yeah, okay, set this side.